For we contend not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities, against the powers, against the world rulers of this present darkness, against the spiritual host of wickedness in the heavenly places. From the American Midwest comes This Present Darkness, where we explore the supernatural aspects of the paranormal from a Catholic perspective and expose the dark forces in our world and beyond, both seen and unseen. Now, here's your host, historian, paranormal investigator, author, and ghost lorist, Ursula Bielski.
Well, hello, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for all of the subscriptions. Thanks for all the likes. Thanks for all the comments. You guys are awesome. I'm so happy to have with me here today, not only an amazing researcher into some of the world's most mysterious mysteries, but also a friend of mine. Cheryl Carter has been researching the paranormal for how many years, Cheryl?
Oh, at least 25.
25 years.
At least.
Yes. And she is also a fantastic author. We're going to be discussing today one of her biggest books, which is called Dimensions, which is about many of the mysterious triangles here in the United States. And then a little bit later on, we're going to be talking about a new book of Cheryl's that's coming out called Chosen. And it's about one of our favorite subjects, which is alien abductions. So help me welcome, please, Cheryl Carter. Thanks so much for being here, Cheryl. It's been a while.
I know. Thanks for having me. We got to get together again soon.
We do have to get together. I was actually, do you remember Paul Mulai? He and his son Nick would always have always been at all of our conferences and everything. He has been saying, we got to have a ghost con. We got to have a ghost con. So we're trying to actually get Shura's High School in September to have another event. So you're definitely on the list
Where's that at?
To invite. Did you go to that one? It's that big, huge high school here in Chicago on the north side.
No.
We had one there probably about 6 years ago, I think. It was one of the last ones. And it's just a great place. There's a lot of activity there. And it's just a huge place and it's a beautiful building. So we're trying to get a date booked in there for the fall so we can have just a one-day event to get everybody back together again because it's been so long. So we'll see, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But hopefully you'll be able to come and speak if we do. So Cheryl, I know you got your book Dimensions there. I think you held it up. Can you just hold that up? This book is so interesting. The mysterious triangle phenomena. We're going to talk about not one, but two triangles that have effects here in Illinois, where I am. And we're also going to be talking about, first of all, the triangle phenomena in general, and some of these big triangles that we've been hearing so much about. We hear all about it in our YouTube feeds and Instagram feeds, TikTok. There's all kinds of Reddit threads about these triangles, and big documentaries have been done about them, more and more, it seems, all the time. And it seems like a lot of the phenomena of these triangles lines up with the missing 411 stuff that David Paulides has done so much work on, that we've talked about on this show a lot as well. So just paint us a picture of what are these triangles? What does triangle mean? And then what are some of these the phenomena that people experience across the board in a lot of these different areas that are in so many different places?
Well, they're not all exactly triangles, but when someone talks about them, they kind of use 3 points to give you an area. Like I think one of them is a little more octagon, but they're mostly triangles. There's just places that have mystical energy and different vibrations, and the ancients considered them passageways that would enable you to traverse time and go through other dimensions.
And we've heard about a lot of that kind of a thing, like with like Skinwalker Ranch. Like a lot of people think that there's like a Stargate there where there's like you can actually travel through dimensions. And I've been hearing more about that. So that's one of the things that people talk about with all these triangle areas, right?
Mm-hmm. And you're going to find in all these, you're going to find mysterious creatures, interdimensional beings, lapses in time, missing people like the 411, bizarre legends, and lots of extraterrestrial contact.
And I was reading your book, and it was amazing. The Native Americans in all of these areas had tradition going back thousands of years, knowing there was something wrong with these areas too.
Well, and everything you read about the ancients, they all talked about the sky people that came down to them. You can see it in their petroglyphs too.
And specifically in these areas.
Yeah, I mean, all over the United States, all my triangles that I've, been researching, they all talk about the sky people.
Yeah. All right, let's start out with one that I have seen. I don't know anything about it until I read your book. I didn't know anything about it, but I saw it popping up constantly in my feed. And we're going to have Mike Ricksucker on later this month, who I think wrote a whole book about the Alaska Triangle. So I'm looking forward to having him on. But give us some background, like where is the Alaska Triangle, and why is it getting so much attention now? I mean, we've always heard about the Bermuda Triangle. I always heard about the Lake Michigan Triangle growing up here in Chicago, but I never heard about the Alaska Triangle until the last few years.
I didn't know when I lived in Illinois. I didn't know we had a triangle in Illinois.
Apparently we have 2 triangles in Illinois now.
Yeah, there's a triangle.
We have the Lake Michigan Triangle,
within a triangle, yeah.
And maybe another one, which I want to talk to you about too at the end.
Okay. No,
All right, for the Alaska Triangle, and this gets all involved with like the JFK assassination.
Oh my gosh.
And all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah, because it's like in the 1950s during the Cold War, they were getting they have something called a DEW line, distance warning for Russia, which is just across the way, and they were getting strange kind of signals and things like that. And so this is the crazy part. They started doing an underground search because they thought, did the Russians come and they got something in the ground, some kind of secret base or something? And so they were doing seismic tests, and they found out there's some kind of an underground pyramid under Alaska. And its points are Juneau, the Barrow Mountains, and Anchorage. And so they did this investigation. They call it Project Dark Pyramid. How about that? That's just a great name. Yeah, okay, yeah. And they said that this triangle is 150 feet below the earth. It's 1,150 feet tall, with each side measuring 1510. So it's twice the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, underground.
Wow.
And so somebody that was in the Army, his name was, Doug Mulcher. He actually was talking about it to Linda Moulton Howe on her show. And then all of a sudden they're doing this cover up that, nope, that didn't happen. Nope. He wasn't on any radio show. He didn't talk. And he was trying to find records and stuff. Nope, no records, so trying to keep it all really quiet. But they say whatever this pyramid is under there, it generates its own energy.
So is this a 3-sided pyramid? Does it line up with so it lines up with the Alaska Triangle area?
It's within, yeah. And it's generating its own energy, but they don't know what it is and how it got there. And no one's talking about it except like ancient aliens. Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how it's just no one talks about any of this stuff?
There's people talking about it somewhere, but share it with the world.
Yeah. Okay, so what kind of things when did people start talking about the Alaska Triangle as a thing? Like what happened to we know there are more people that disappear in Alaska, like way more than all the other areas of the United States, for example, that David.
I know everybody talks about the Bermuda Triangle, and that's like nothing compared to Alaska. Yeah. Well, it's just, there's a lot of wilderness there. I mean, you got to know.
Of course.
People go out hiking, never get found, but there's just other reasons. There's just so many planes that disappear there, and they're never found.
And this all started with a plane disappearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that?
There were two government officials that were going to Anchorage just for a meeting, and they're flying this small plane, and they got halfway through their trip, and the plane went off radar, and they never made it to their destination. And they couldn't figure out what happened. Well, Mr. Boggs was going to come back after his meeting in Anchorage, and he wanted to open up the JFK investigation. Now, was this plane actually sabotaged so that this didn't happen? Interesting.
Yeah, because I never heard this before. I thought I'd heard every theory about the JFK assassination, and then read that in your book that many people believe, ufologists believe, that JFK was shot because, and Marilyn Monroe comes into this, that
Yeah,
Marilyn
I
Monroe was
believe
going,
that JFK
Yeah.
was going to talk about UFOs. Yes, and I also you saw in the book I have photos where they were wiretapping Marilyn Monroe's phone, because when her and JFK broke up, she got really mad, and she says she's going to go to the press tomorrow and she's going to tell them everything that's going on.
and she meant about like Roswell, like the Roswell crash and Area
JFK,
51 and all of that.
Supposedly JFK went to Roswell and he saw the aliens. He saw the craft. And that's why, I think that's why he's gone. So then all of a sudden, she's dead. And then there was
the reporter also,
Yeah.
who was on the case, had an untoward ending too.
Yeah, and she was dead. All these people are dead because of, I don't think the plane just crashed. No.
Is it true that they actually located the crash site, and one of the people survived, or two of the people survived, and they didn't really, that they had plans to not pick them up?
They never located it, but there was a ham radio operator there, and he found a signal where, because the plane has a transmitter that was transmitting a signal, and he sent the signal to the Coast Guard, and they never investigated. They just ignored it because he knew exactly where the plane.
Every day that goes by, I just hear something else that's just sickening about our government covering this stuff
so
up.
I mean, this is
Sickening.
another reason why this was done on purpose. You didn't even look for the plane, and someone told you it's right there.
Yeah. All right. What other kinds of thing? You said that there's strange creatures that are seen in all of these areas, and it's weird. It's like there's creatures from like whatever the local mythology is with the Native Americans.
Yeah.
It's like people actually witness these creatures. For example, you said in Alaska, I can't remember the name of the creature. It's like like a otter, like some kind of cryptid.
Yeah. And then what are these? Where do they come from? Are they natural to the area, or are they coming from another dimension? Who knows where they come from? But they don't look like any other animal,
Yeah, like so many people now I know, and I've come to believe this too, think that Bigfoot is part of this, where, we've seen the footage of all these UFOs or UAPs, they just vanish. And I think a lot of these creatures, they seem to have the same kind of behavior where they just disappear. They appear and vanish, into thin air, out of thin air. And all these areas too, it's not only like these cryptids, like dogmen, Bigfoot, all these weird, like the otter creature, different, winged humanoid creatures, but little people too is something common to all these areas, which I found so fascinating. So it's like all of these ancient legends that we have from so many different cultures of like things like fairies, pop up in all of these areas where people see these little people or the little beings.
Yeah. And we find this all strange, but the Native people go, yeah.
Yeah, right. We told you.
Yeah. We see them. They've been around. Yeah.
One of the big things that I've seen in these areas too, and I'm thinking about the Alaska Triangle. A lot of people believe that whatever these beings are, that sometimes they're like cryptids. Other times they appear, and it's all these areas where people go missing, where people who do come back, the few that do come back, they say, I saw someone that I know, whether it's someone they were hiking with, a family member, or just some person like from back home that they suddenly see in the middle of the wilderness, and they follow them, and they get lost, or they're taken or whatever, and very few of them make it back. But this kind of shape-shifting thing is also very common across all these triangle.
Or what I think is they can go into your mind, and they can have you see things that aren't really there. And a lot of time when someone says, well, this creature looked like this or that, and they could go into your mind and go, what is the most scariest thing to that person? And that's what they'll see, the most scariest thing. And that's not there either.
Yeah, that mind control or hypnosis is a big part of everything, from these situations, these missing situations, to a lot of the abduction experiences. We'll talk about that when we talk in the second part about your upcoming book and the aerial school happening, which was that mind, those messages were such a big part of it. We'll talk about getting ahead of ourselves here. So wow, Alaska is crazy. The Bridgewater, I want to get to Illinois, but the Bridgewater Triangle, that's another one that I hear about all the time, but I don't know anything about it. What's the background? Where's the Bridgewater Triangle? That's Bridgewater. What state is that?
Up by Maine.
Oh, in Maine. All the way up in Maine. Okay.
Yeah.
So what's that all about? When did people start talking about that having, strange qualities?
That one's a place where there's lots of missing people again. Most of the triangles on the East Coast have lots of missing people.
When did these, swaths of missing people start? I mean, we're talking like hundreds of years ago, or 20th century?
It probably did, and no one really recorded something like that. But yeah. I think
it's one of the weirdest cases from the Bridgewater Triangle.
Well, it says where people were hiking, and they just disappeared on the hiking trail.
So they're with other people, and they just vanished.
Yeah, they're with like 2 or 3 people, and they kind of got ahead of the other 2. And when the people got around the bend, their friend was not there, and never found. Just was gone.
David Politis always says, "Never be first or last in line."
I'll tell you.
My daughter is going to go to Rocky Mountain National Park with her boyfriend.
I've been there.
And I'm like, it's beautiful. But I'm like, now that I know all this, I'm like, you got to like chain yourselves to each other the whole time you're there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because a lot of these people they're hiking alone, which I do that. That's bad. I do that too.
What was so weird to me in reading your book? Were there am I wrong that there were 3 different instances across the country and these triangle areas where there were like people from freak shows associated with these areas, where there were like freakish people that ended up in like the circus or whatever that were found in these areas?
This one happened in Kentucky. It was called the Big Lick Triangle. And there's actually a railroad, and it's really, I forgot how many, 150 feet in the air, the trellis.
Okay.
And there was a circus, traveling circus going through the town. This is the legend. Traveling circus going through the town, and the train derailed, and the train fell. All these people died, but this monster that they were keeping in a cage for their freak show got loose, and that's supposedly the person that's. Now, a lot of people have claimed they've seen
taking people. Then that's the goat man, right?
Yeah.
Goat man.
because he was like half, half goat, half child.
Yeah.
Actually, it was a baby that somebody just abandoned at the circus, and the bearded lady took care of him. But then because they had him chained up all the time, he became very aggressive. And we don't know that the goat man actually kills anybody, but people go up and they want to walk across those railroad tracks. And are they just doing it for a thrill? Is the goat man calling them up there? That's another legend. But when they go up there, they don't realize it's an active track and the train goes by. And many people have been hit by the train up there because you can't get off. You're up in the air. There's a single track. Where are you going to go?
Wow, it makes you wonder if they're just stupid or if there's something more sinister
Yeah. Well,
going on.
some people that crawled up there, yeah, that's not very smart, but why'd you crawl? Did something call to you?
Yeah. All right, let's go to Illinois. Now, I've written myself about the Lake Michigan Triangle, like, the ghost ships of Lake Michigan, and then like ships that disappear, planes that disappear, like the Bermuda Triangle stuff, or people that are sailing or flying through the triangle area. And this is Chicago, Ludington, and Manitowoc, Wisconsin, Ludington, Michigan, Chicago. Their instruments will go crazy. But this woman contacted me a few years ago, and she's been a sailor for her whole life. And they were training, she and her crew were training for, I think, the Mackinac race.
Okay.
And they went out one very calm, clear summer evening to train, practice. And she said all of a sudden everyone on deck went into this like brain fog. And the ship actually rose up onto its front and pirouetted on the water.
Oh my gosh.
And nobody was even like, I mean, it wasn't like they were falling off or anything. They were like in a daze, and they all experienced it happen. And it was a team of boats, and it happened to every single one of them.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they went back into port, and they docked their boats, and nobody said anything about it for weeks. They were so freaked out about it. When they finally started talking about it, they said that during that time that it was happening, they also saw their deceased loved ones on board. Is that nuts?
See, they can't go back and talk about it, because if you're in the military, they'll put you away because you're crazy.
Yeah. Well,
that's why these things happen and we don't know.
Yeah. So, but I never knew that there was another triangle in Illinois until I read your book.
Yeah. I lived there all my life, and I didn't know till I'm writing this book, and I saw, heck.
So the Little Egypt Triangle, and when I, growing up in Illinois, we have Southern Illinois is also known as Little Egypt, if the viewers aren't aware of that. And everything's like named after like places, and like Cairo and Illinois, and everything's like named after places in Egypt. And I always heard, and I think just like the general, explanation for it was that at some point in Illinois' history, there was like a famine, a drought, and there was a big famine. And so people were buying grain. Northern Illinoisans were buying grain from Southern Illinois, like in the Bible, so it was like this biblical moment in Illinois history. And that's where Little Egypt got its name. But that doesn't seem like it's really the explanation.
No.
Looking at your book, it's just amazing.
Yeah. In 1799, Minister John Bagley was up on a bluff, and he looked on a plane, and he looked down at the land below him, which is Alton, Illinois right now. And it reminded him of the story in the Bible where the Israelites fled to Egypt and they went to the fertile Nile Valley. He thought this looked like the Nile Valley. So he called it the land of Goshen, which in Egyptian means best of the land. And like you said, there's all these towns around there: Memphis, Karnak, Cairo. Cairo's a strange place. Been there.
Yes, it is.
But it was the French who first named the state Illinois after the natives that were there.
And just when you said Alton, I remember they've got that crazy Piazza bird
Yeah, I'm going to get
in
into
their
that one.
history.
Yeah, I have not seen that. So there's a place down there called Cahokia. Now, after I'm writing this book, and I said I have to go to Cahokia while I'm writing this book. If you've never been there, you have to go there.
I have, I've passed by it, so I've seen the mounds, but I haven't gone. But it's funny because my husband was reading your book and he's just like, we got to go to Cahokia.
Yes, you do.
And we've also been watching a lot of L.A. Marzulli's stuff on YouTube and everything about these ancient mounds, and place after place where these mounds are in Cahokia. That's some of the biggest ones in the country, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, it's let's see, they think it was built in 1000 AD. These Indians were called mound builders because that's where they buried their dead. So at one time they think there was 190 mounds. There's only 80 left. It's a state monument now.
And they're huge.
Oh,
Huge.
yeah, and if when you start driving into the little town of Edwardsville, you'll see them behind a gas station in somebody's backyard. There's still mounds everywhere. And when people moved there, the farmers just bulldozed them because it didn't mean anything to them. So but you can still see them. They're little tiny ones all around town. The Cahokia was actually the largest and most influential Mississippian culture north of Mexico. And they think it was constructed when there was a supernova called SN 1006 that occurred between April 30th and May 1st in 106 AD. And it was the largest stellar event in recorded history. It was 3 times the size of Venus and 7,200 light years away. And this actually stayed in the sky both night and day for 3 years. Well, I'd love to see it. So there's one of the there's different places. There's one called Woodhenge, like Stonehenge. It's a circle with all these poles, and it's aligned to different positions of the moon and the sun. And one of the poles there actually aligns with the coordinates of where this appeared in the sky at that time.
It is amazing, like I said, we've been watching a lot of L.A. Marzulli's stuff, and I think he talks about how all of these ancient sites line up all around the world. These ancient peoples somehow built these huge things all on these exact perfect geometric lines, shapes, designs when nobody even knew geometry at that time.
Sacred geometry. Yeah. And
that's the only way to really, this is the most chilling thing to me. The only way to really see how precise they are and what shapes they are is from the air.
The air. Yes.
I like there's chill down my spine right now.
But me too. Yeah.
So
and they all over the world. I mean, they had no way of communicating with each other back then when these things were built. And they all have the same alignments to the moon and the sun and to the planets.
And the Native Americans, the archaeologists say like, oh yeah, your people built these however many years ago. And they're like, yeah, no, they didn't. Like the Indians are like, yeah, we didn't build these. And the archaeologists are like, yeah, you did. They're like, no, we didn't.
No, that's another book I'm writing about how all these different places align with Pleiades.
Wow, it's crazy.
That's another book. Okay.
Yeah, which is that's the system that comes up over and over again with the abductions experience, going back like 100 years. And even going back to theosophy, like the theosophists were talking about Pleiades, in the mid 1800s. It's just really crazy.
Yeah,
Ugh.
yeah. I'm going, wow. Yes. One of the mounds is it's called Monk's Mound. It is the biggest one. It's 100 feet high. It covers 14 acres, and it's the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now they have steps where you can walk up to the top,
Yeah.
and they're like in sections, so you're not going straight up. Thank goodness. But I went up to the top, and when you look out, if you look over, you can see the St. Louis Arch. You're way up there, and you see cars going by, and they look like ants. You are way up there. And as you get to the middle, you can feel there's a vortex going through the whole mound. You can feel the energy swirling.
Yeah. Is
Why they do that?
Sedona's one of these areas? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know my husband went there a few years ago, and he said like the whole town, you can feel that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And have you been to Burlington, Wisconsin? The
No.
Burlington there's supposedly a vortex there, and Mary oh, I can't believe her last name will come to me in a second. She's written many books about the red-haired giants and all these ancient things, just really fascinating stuff. But there is a forest up there where there's been UFO sightings. In fact, a group that we had up there, everyone in the group saw this green like fireball
Ooh.
fall out of the sky into the woods there when we were going in. There's been fairy sightings, Bigfoot sightings, UFOs, everything under the sun, same kind of thing. And like you walk through the town, and there were areas where Mary would stop and go like, this is one of the lines of the energy field, and you would feel it. It
You
was
can feel that stuff.
you
Yeah.
just feel it.
Yeah.
Wow, this is so amazing. Okay, so the book, I want to move on to your next book because
Okay.
I think we're just about there. So the book is Dimensions, and I'm going to put the link in the description so you can get the book Dimensions. And we're going to take a short break. And in 1 minute, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about one other place in Illinois. I think maybe you should add to the list, and I think you're going to agree with me. And then we're going to talk about Cheryl's new book that's coming out called Chosen, and it's all about the contactee and UFO abduction phenomena. So join me right back here in just 1 minute.
Talk about St. Clair?
No.
Oh, which one?
Bachelor's Grove.
Huh?
Bachelor's Grove.
Oh, okay.
Tinley Park. Okay, so so I want to hear about St. Clair. I'm thinking, I have come think more and more, and I know you have done a ton of research at Bachelor's Grove. For viewers who haven't seen my stuff on Bachelor's Grove is this little wooded area. It's part of the forest preserves of Cook County, southwest of Chicago. There's a little tiny settler cemetery there that's now surrounded by forest. It was reforested like in the 1920s. It was a settler cemetery going back to the 1830s. But there have been all kinds of ghost stuff there, vanishing houses, ghost lights and strange lights that people see, UFOs, at least 2 Bigfoot experiences, little people, fairies, and even apparently a disappearance that happened in 1963 where 3 boys that were just like riding their bikes in the woods said they followed some colorful lights into the woods, and they were gone for like 3 days. And then they reappeared, came out of the woods 3 days later, it had been raining, so muddy back there. They were completely clean. Their shoes were clean. They were dry, and didn't know that they had been missing at all. They thought they'd been gone for like an hour from home.
I haven't heard that one.
And then right nearby there, Tinley Park, where the Tinley Park lights happened, one of the most infamous UFO phenomena that was experienced by so many people. And then during that Mothman flap a few years ago, the Chicago Mothman, several of those reports were in the Tinley Park area as well. So yeah, I'm going to throw Bachelor's Grove and Tinley Park, or just southwest side of Chicago, in there too. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that place.
Yeah. Okay, tell me about St. Clair.
Okay, so when this happened, this was in January of 2000.
And this is
This is-
Illinois too.
Yes,
Yeah.
and this is actually St. Clair, Illinois. That's why it's called that. And it's actually a famous case. It's still open. It's still an open case. Melvin Knoll he went out to inspect his golf course, to inspect the sprinkler system, because it was really cold, January. And when he came out of the building, there was this huge UFO above him that was as big as a football field. So he goes in to report it, and
What?
yeah, that there's something strange in the sky. So then at let's see, 412, Officer Ed Barton also saw this craft up in the sky, and it was tilting back and forth. Then it was really level. There were all kinds of multicolored lights. At 423, Officer Dave Martin also saw a triangle shape that was 100 yards wide. And there were 3 bright lights, and they were projecting down to the ground. They were red, and they had red and green on the back. 428, Officer Greg Stevens saw a V-shaped object with strobing lights. 503, we have all these officers. Officer Matt Janey saw the triangular shape object with the lights, and all these are very silent. There's no sound at all. So all these police officers are watching this for hours. So the next day they had somebody from NIDS come out and investigate the place. That's the National Institute of Discovery, Mr. Bigelow. And he was talking to people, and they said that this UFO was observed in 7 counties, witnessed by hundreds of people, doctors, lawyers, police. And they said it had traveled 62 miles through these 7 counties.
What? I'm sorry, what year was this?
2000.
What?
Yeah.
How does we not know anything? How do we not hear about that?
I don't know. And I'm reading it, and I says it's a very important case. Well, then why didn't we know about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess there was a show on Discovery called UFOs over Illinois. I never saw that either.
Wow. No, me neither. Huh.
I have to go find that somewhere. I never saw that either.
Amazing. Oh, wow. Okay. Again, the book is Dimensions. Make sure you pick it up. I'm going to put the description in the comments. I'm going to put the link in the description. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. Now, I was so excited. You sent me a chapter from your next book that's coming out called Chosen. And this is all about UFO abductions and contact. And
the little guy there, yeah.
This is we've talked a lot about this already on this channel. I just started getting it. I've always been interested in ghosts and hauntings and other paranormal stuff. I never was really interested in UFOs, even though my brother, I believe, was abducted numerous times when we were children. And I would have, and I only realized this recently, because I would have sleep paralysis often when I was little. And I discovered just recently that oftentimes when someone is being abducted in the family, someone else will be like held down
Mm-hmm.
so they can't interfere with it. Seemingly like they can't interfere with it. So I don't know if I was an unwitting part of this or not, but I'm starting to question all kinds of things that
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought were one thing, and now it seems like they were something else. But so I started to get interested in UFOs just maybe about a year ago, and of
Mm.
course went swiftly down the rabbit hole. And I had my kind of my mentor from grad school and his wife over for breakfast after Christmas. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and they had lived in a bunch of different condos around this area on the north side of Chicago, but they had recently moved into a retirement home in a nearby along the North Shore. And I didn't know they had done that. And so I was surprised to hear that. And they were talking about different people that they live with. And I had told them that I, had started doing research into UFOs, and I was, I thought I was going to start maybe putting together a book about a particular aspect of it. And my professor's wife said she should talk to David. And I was like, David who? And she said, David Jacobs. I was like, David Jacobs. And it turns out they live with Dr. David Jacobs, the the very well known, we've talked about it on this channel. He is a cultural historian like myself, taught at Temple University for years, and he did his dissertation on the UFO experience in American culture, and ended up being one of the only people that started doing hypnosis on people who believe that they were abducted by aliens. And he's done like 1,100 of these inductions, and every single one of them is the same experience. And he has come to believe, like many people have, that people have been being taken away by aliens and made part of some kind of hybridization and sort of infiltration process, something, whatever. They are infiltrating humanity with hybrids. And it was crazy. So I got to go and have lunch with them at this place where they live. And I sat next to him, and I got to, bend his ear for a couple of hours. And it's really crazy. I mean, I'm hoping to have him on the show, but he really got to a point where he said, like, it's so depressing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because I know it's real, and it's so depressing that I had to put it behind. I just had to put it away and not think about it anymore, so that I could just have a life, so
Yeah,
I could have a life with my children, my grandchildren, and so that I could just survive, because I can't think about it.
Because I've read, doing this book, I've got, people in the book, I've got their hypnotic regressions. It's scary reading those. It's scary what they're saying.
How did you get interested in this topic? Did you have experiences like this?
Yeah, well, I'm a MUFON member, but yeah, I saw one. I was just driving down the street here in Michigan, driving down Woodward after like 2:00, and it was perfectly blue sky, and I just happened to look up, and the sky opened up like it just tore. And this silver disc-shaped object came out, and I go, what the heck? And it just hovered there. And I'm looking, does nobody else see this? No one ever looks up in the sky. And at that time, I didn't have a camera phone. I'm just fixated on it. And it was like everything around me stopped. It just stopped. And then I don't know how long it was. And then the sky opened up again. It went back inside, and the sky just closed up. And I go, what the heck was that? So that's when I really get into it.
I can imagine.
I joined Michigan MUFON, to learn more stuff. Yeah. But as I'm writing this book, I want to not just tell stories. Everybody, this is a story. This happened. I want to do the human side of it. What happened to these people after they had their experience? Did life go on as usual? No. They have problems, of course. And I found hypnotic regressions from the different stories, and it is scary to listen to what happened to them.
They're all exactly the same.
Yeah. But
Exactly the same.
it's after they
And-
had the regression, though, they do feel a little better, because they did have missing time that they couldn't remember because there was like a block on them, and now they can remember what happened.
You sent the sample chapter that you sent me from your new book is about one of the most disturbing and most well experienced
Hmm.
events that we have from the study of all this, and that was the Ariel School event. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about when that happened, where, and what that entailed?
This was back in 1970. It was in Zimbabwe, and there was a little area called Ariel, and it's really very isolated. It was a private Catholic school, and the kids all went out about noon for recess, and the teachers were having their meeting, and they saw something up in the sky, some kind of a craft with bright lights shining down. And so they all ran over to the fence to go see what it was. And when they did, it landed, and there were these 3 beings that came out. One was walking around this ship, and one was kind of guarding it, and the other one kind of floated up to the children in the yard. It didn't walk, it floated. And the children started having visions that children don't have, visions of what the future's going to be, about the land was all barren and the trees were all burned, things, like maybe
Like climate stuff, climate warming stuff.
Or we had a atomic bomb or something, just killed all the trees. They were all burned, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's scary. These kids were anywhere from 6 years old up to 12.
What did these beings look like?
Different ones. They had the big eyes. They were black. One of the beings, they said, had long hair. The other one said they didn't have any hair, but they didn't have a mouth, but they were speaking to them through their mind. That's what they said, telepathically. They were speaking to them, telling them it was okay, but they were showing them pretty scary stuff. And it was like, are we supposed to use this to make sure the future doesn't happen this way? But these are kids. And
what do the adults think about this?
And the kids went to their teacher, and the teacher goes, "Oh, stop fooling around." Nobody wanted to believe them. And so there was a local UFO investigator there, and she heard about it, and then she came with a reporter, and they went and they sat down and they talked to each one of the children, and they drew pictures. I mean, they're all pretty much, alike. And then they saw the one says, "Well, what's this?" And the boy said, "Well, that's the ship that came yesterday." So here it happened 2 days in a row. And the first ship was actually following the power lines. We hear that, where they follow the power lines. And the one girl, she actually goes out, she's a teenager now, but she actually goes out to UFO events and speaks. And she actually paints pictures of, of what she saw. And she drew one picture. She used to be a little girl with pigtails. And she painted a picture of a little girl with a zipper on her mouth, because she wasn't allowed to talk.
Oh gosh,
she wasn't allowed to talk about it at home. No, that didn't happen.
What's something to carry with you all those years?
Yeah, because we're Catholic, and we don't talk about such things.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wonder, because I'm Catholic too, and
I am too.
It was Oh, I didn't know you were Catholic.
Yeah.
It's like, when I grew up, there was definitely something wrong with our house. Footsteps, knocking, piano playing, terrifying feelings, and my mom was like, "Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's nothing." It's just like, and now I wonder, like, with this UFO stuff, like, what the hell was going on in that house? I don't even want to know really anymore.
You had ghosts for sure. Yeah.
But it's just like, it was just like, there's no such thing, there's no, that's different now, thankfully. But You know, I don't know if they were taught there's no such thing as ghosts, because the church doesn't teach that, but that's how we were raised.
You don't talk about dead people. My mother always said it's bad luck to talk about dead people. That's why
Oh, bad luck. Oh, I never heard that one.
I don't know where
Okay.
that came from. Is that a Polish thing? I don't know if
I
it's a
know,
Polish
could
thing.
be.
I don't know. Yeah. Because I was trying to do my genealogy and I was asking her stuff. Can you
Yeah.
give me some names? You know, help me here. Bad luck to talk about that. I said, I don't want to
Me,
talk about, I don't want to
yeah,
talk about them. Just give me some names.
yeah.
You
Well,
know? Yeah.
meanwhile, my dad said he saw the devil when he was little.
Ooh.
He had premonitions of his death. He had his identical twin fell out of a fourth floor window when he was 72. 6 months later, my dad fell and cracked a rib and punctured his lung and died. And
Hmm.
like 2 days, but perfect health, 72. 2 days before he fell, he told me he was going to die. And
Hmm.
then the night before he fell, he told my mom that his brother was at the window and he had come to get him.
Oh.
So my dad was like, yeah, it's totally real. All this stuff is real. My mom was like, no, there's no such thing.
Oh yeah, because I used to be a CNA and I would have hospice patients. And
Oh, yeah.
I would see their relatives coming for them. I saw them standing by their bed.
I have heard this from so
I
many
can-
people
Yeah,
that work in
because
hospitals, so
because
many and hospice work.
the one woman had a brother who fell through the ice when he was ice skating, and he was like 17. I saw his picture on her mantle, and there he was. Now she was in her 90s. There he was at the side of her bed, and it was the guy in the picture coming for her.
Wow.
And then another day I saw her husband on the other side. I said, they're coming for her. So that the thing was, her daughter came in, and her daughter thinks she's coming back home. You're in hospice now. I don't know why you thought she's coming back home.
Oh,
And she says, I couldn't tell her about this because, have me getting
oh.
fired because I'm telling her. I mean, she does believe in
Yeah.
in spirits and stuff, but if I start telling her this, get me fired.
Yeah.
So I says, she says, yeah, my brother's from out of town. He wants to, come visit her next week. And I said, you think he could come sooner? Because I knew she was going to die on Wednesday. I knew
Oh, wow.
that this was Monday.
Yeah.
I said, you can't come any sooner? Well, I don't know. I think he should come sooner. That's all I could say to her.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
gosh.
so I got up Wednesday morning and I was supposed to do the afternoon shift, and they called me from work and they told me I didn't have to go because she had died. And I said, I already knew that. Yeah. But that you do see the people coming for them. You do.
Yeah. What happened to these kids with the aerial school incident? Did they ever? They started recently, some of them, to start talking about what happened to them after all these years, 1970.
Well, I said, half of the kids went home and they were told we're not talking about this.
Yeah, and they've got PTSD symptoms
Yeah,
still
I'm
now.
sure they do. Even the grown-ups can imagine a kid has to try to deal with something like this, and a lot of them pulled their kids out of school and moved.
Wow.
They just got
I
them out of there.
think I saw one of the teachers today. I think I saw her on a documentary or in some interview where she carries with her that disbelief that she didn't accept what the children said, and she feels like
Yes.
she hurt them so badly all these years, and she was crying. She wanted to apologize.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
because she's got, well, they got to be making that up. Stop doing that, Even
yeah,
even the headmaster, he did not believe this at all.
it's real.
Yeah, but
Real.
but after they did a documentary, called the area school.
Yes, and I will put that. I think that's free on YouTube. I'm going to check that out,
Yeah.
and I'll put the link in the description of this video also, so people can check
Yeah,
that out.
where they're talking to the kids, and it's just so real.
Yeah.
And how are they all? You got them all separated. They're not talking, and they're all drawing the same pictures. How are they making this up?
Yeah.
No.
You think, oh my gosh, and you think how that not being believed must have affected just every aspect of their lives. I always think of that. I did like a little documentary on it. Did you ever hear of Tina Resch, the poltergeist case in Columbus in the 80s?
Mhm.
Tina Resch, who, there was all this stuff going on in the house. She was a foster child, very just kind of disturbed family situation. And she ended up being convicted of the murder of her little girl, 2-year-old girl, even though the girl, she wasn't home at the time. The little girl had been sodomized and she was with the boyfriend at the time it happened.
Yeah.
It was Tina. She pled guilty. She did a plea bargain. And it's like, you wonder, because people, when that stuff was going on in the 80s, when she was, like an adolescent, so many people said she was lying, she was faking. And you wonder, like, is that why she didn't even fight, for the truth? She's still in jail today. You think that must have happened to those kids
Right.
too?
Well,
And
the
so
lawyer,
many.
right.
Yeah.
Their lawyer just goes, just do a plea bargain. This is the best, and you're supposed to trust your lawyer.
Yeah.
Even though you didn't do it. I'm sure that happens to a lot.
I
Yeah.
think it
What
just
these
breaks your
kids grow up to
spirit,
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. What these kids grow up to be, I don't know.
Oh, it's so sad.
I can only see a couple of the kids that are actually go on YouTube and talk about it, but you don't hear about the others. What they turn out to be? Did they turn out okay?
Yeah. Gosh, it's so sad. Okay, the book. When is the book coming out?
Well, I'm trying to get it done. I was hoping the end of this month, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of stuck on one of the chapters. I'm redoing it. Shame on me. I'm always doing that. When I'm writing a book, I keep redoing chapters, but I keep finding stuff.
Yeah, you keep finding stuff. It's so hard to finish. It's so
My
hard
friend
to
says,
finish.
if you don't stop that, you'll be writing a book forever. Of course, you're going to find stuff. Just do another book,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, when it comes out, can you come back on and talk some more about it? That would be great.
Yes.
Cheryl, this has been just great. So interesting. So great to see you again. And thank you so much for taking time to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. All right. You take care. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. This has just been so great. Check out all the links in the description for Cheryl's books and for that aerial school video. And I will see you next time. And until then, remember to pray for ghosts. I'm Ursula Bielski. All right. That was awesome.
Thanks for listening to This Present Darkness. The video version of this podcast is available on Ursula Bielski's World of the Supernatural YouTube channel. Be sure to become a subscriber by signing up with Buzzsprout today. And remember to sign up for the World of the Supernatural mailing list at worldofthesupernatural.com for our monthly newsletter and more. And don't forget to support the podcast through Patreon.